Hi guys, welcome to my video on assembling a miniature porcelain doll. Right here in front of me we have one of my dolls, and this is how I assemble them. If you buy an undressed doll from me, this is the best way that I've come up with over the years of assembling a doll, so hopefully this will help you. And this is also for anybody else who's assembling dolls. Porcelain dolls are hollow inside, so please take note. They're made this way. Their feet and hands are hollow as well. If you're doing a polymer clay doll, you can do a similar method of assembly. With polymer clay, I don't think that it's as hollow. There's usually holes that you put the different pipe cleaners into. So anyway, follow along. These are the supplies needed. Of course, you need your doll. Then you also need a hot glue gun. That is really great because if you ever need to take apart your doll, you can easily put the doll in hot water and the glue will melt and you can take it apart. So don't use super glue or anything like that, because then you'll never be able to. If the fingers break off a hand, you won't be able to replace it. Also, a ruler is needed for checking the height of the doll. Remember, I work in 1-inch scale, so I'll be talking about that a lot. 1 inch equals 1 foot. I have a wire cutter here to cut the pipe cleaners, a pair of scissors, tweezers, tacky glue. I have cotton string or yarn. I have cotton gauze for wrapping the body. And then I have pipe cleaners. So we're going to go into the next step and we're going to talk about the pipe cleaners and what to do with them. Okay, so this is what we do with the pipe cleaners and the doll. I have 5 pipe cleaners here for one doll. I use 3 for the legs and 2 for the arms. And I'm going to show you what to do. We need to twist them into individual rods, and then we are going to insert them into the body. I'll show you how to twist. This is what I do. There's so many funny ways of doing it too. You could take a drill, electric drill, and tie it to the end and twist it. But I hold it flat here with this hand, and then I take this hand and I twist. Okay? And that's twisting 3 wires together. The reason why I use 3 wires is just it's stronger and it's for the lower part of the body. It gives the body more stability. I also do other things, and I can tell you about that later in the video on how to make the body more stable, so that it's not all floppy. But some people want, more of a posable doll, so they want to make sure that it is actually bendable. This method with the 3, it's still bendable. I'm going to set that down and show you the second one too. It's 2, hold it flat, twist with your other hand, right or left, whatever floats your boat. All right, I'm going to set that down. I'm going to do a real quick video that shows you twisting. Okay, now we have our wires or pipe cleaners. Some people call them chenille stems, just so you know. This is the 2-piece one, this is the 3-piece one. So what you should do, take the 3-piece one, this is for the lower body, and bend it like so. Take your wire cutters and cut off the ends to make them nice and clean. We're going to be cutting off more anyway to adjust the height of the doll. This part's actually to go inside. Not yet, but it will, just to show you what that's about. Now this is the arms. There are 2 methods for doing arms. It depends on the doll. I have a doll where I can take the pipe cleaner and run it all the way through to the other side. Sometimes I will have dolls with shoulders, and you have to kind of shove the pipe cleaner up that way and up that way. So then you would cut it in 2 and shove each side in. But for now, I'm going to show you how to take it all the way through. But first of all, you got to clean up the ends, cut them nice and straight. All right. And then we begin with this. Put it all the way through. There you go. About even. We're going to cut off the ends anyway to attach the hands, so you know that that is in there and good. All right, so now we are going to put hot glue in here to secure the arms. So take your hot glue gun. Don't burn yourself because that's never fun. Been there, done that. All right, and you squirt as much as you can get in there before it has to heat up again. Be careful not to burn your hands. If you want to hold it with a pot holder, it's almost full. So fill it till it's almost full. You can see that. And then take your 3-leg one that's bent and shove that bent part into the cavity as far up as it will go. And basically it went up to about there. The glue is securing these and securing that. So we let it set for a bit. And then I will show you how to do the arms and legs. Okay, so now to do the arms and legs, we're going to cut down the arms just a little bit just because they're kind of floppy and in the way. Cut them to, you know, I mean, you're going to cut them more, but just cut off the bulk of them. Gives you a little bit more room to work with the legs, because we're going to do the legs first. So we've got a doll here. It's, like I said, 1-inch scale. So most of my female dolls are about 5.5 inches tall. That translates to 5.5 feet, which is the average size of a woman. But it just depends on what you're making. If you're making a doll that's shorter or taller, you adjust at this point. So here's my ruler. I have it at the top of her head right there. Then I've got her feet. So remember, this is her left, her right. So make sure you have the correct foot. That's always fun when you get it wrong. But like I said, you can always undo all this with hot boiling water by soaking the doll in that. As of right now, I think these are going to be too long, but let's try it out. This is her left foot. We're going to try it out. That's as far as it'll go. So you push it up as far as it'll go. Yeah, so that goes way beyond 6. And we want the bottom of the foot to go to about there. No, actually to go about there. 5.5 feet or 5.5 inches is what we want. So the top of the head to 5.5 inches. We want the bottom of the foot to be about where it is at the top right now. So that means we've got to cut down more of the pipe cleaner. I'm eyeballing it. You might have to do this several times to get it right. It's almost there, as you can see. Won't be exact, but it's this first one that's going to be a guide for the next foot. Next foot, you won't even have to use the ruler. All right, that looks about right. She is wearing heels, so I would say she's a little more petite. She's probably about 5.25 inches tall, flat-footed. But that makes her just right for 1-inch scale. So we're going to put this foot on first. And then we won't need the ruler, so I'm going to put the ruler. There you go, ruler. What you do is you fill it up. Not all the way because you don't want to burn yourself. But enough to probably 3/4 of the way full. There we go. And quickly, before it dries, put it onto the pipe cleaner inside. It'll make a popping sound. It'll squirt out a little, so don't burn yourself. Hold it, hold it, hold it. You can even take a little extra piece of leftover and kind of take those bubbles up. You let that dry. Okay, one more check with the ruler just to make sure we got it. Got it good. Yeah, that's gonna be really good. All right, so the next one is her right foot. As far as it goes, oh shoot, that's not gonna work. So we're gonna have to cut off probably about up to here to get it to match the other foot. Or they say measure twice, cut once. Yeah, well, I'm not measuring here. I'm just eyeballing more than anything. Yeah, that doesn't fit yet. Let's keep going. And also each foot, each leg is going to have different depth. It's just the nature of a handmade item. So it's just, you know, dry fitting it basically before you put the glue in and making sure that it actually fits before you put the glue in. Almost, but as you can tell, not quite. Here we go, here we go. Okay, so that's a little more than I wanted it to, but it's okay because, oh man, it's so minute that I can kind of pull it down. What I do is when I put glue in this one, I stand the doll up and make sure both feet are touching the ground at the ball of the foot, in this case, and that she is standing straight and upright. So that's what I'm going to do right now, because we're going to have to, we won't be able to push it all the way up because it's too short. Push it to about there. So we fill it up with hot glue. Please, if you're a child, don't do this without a parental guidance. Okay. Now we've got a few seconds of play here. I'm checking. I can push it down a little more. Don't burn yourself. I'm saying that more for me. If you haven't guessed already, I've burnt myself so many times on a hot glue gun. It is hazards of the job. There's a little bit of glue on the back you can take. Oh, it's dry now, so it's not going to. Just leave it there. We're going to wrap that up anyway. You won't even see it. So there we go. There are her feet. Now let's do her arms next. Okay, so now we're going to attach the arms. And in order to keep this doll looking proportionately correct, you need to follow the rules of proportions in figures. The shoulder to the elbow is right at about the waist. If you look at your own self in the mirror, you'll see the bend of your elbow is right about the waist. And this is really important because it really affects the overall look of your doll. If the doll's arms are too long, they just look just odd. And you know, that is, well, that's my goal in making dolls, is to make them look as real as possible. So proportions are really a big deal. All right, so that's where it's going to bend, as you can see. We'll do it over here too, so that you get a really good idea. Obviously, the elbow to the hand and to the fingers is too long, but we'll cut that off here in a minute. So we're going to start with her left hand, and we're going to dry fit it. Obviously too long. Eventually we want it to be right before the bend, right before it. So I'm going to cut it about here, and we'll start from there. Ooh. Okay, so see how much I cut it? I still think it's a bit long, because if you were to straighten it out, she looks kind of like an orangutan. It's got to be up farther. And you really have to, whatever doll you have or doll that you've made, just make sure that the forearms are proportionate, and then the shoulder to elbow is proportionate. Makes a big difference. And if it's too short, that looks crazy too. All right, that looks about right. Also, keep in mind that the hand is always above the knee. The knee on this doll is probably going to be about here, so that makes sense. You don't want the hand all the way down to the knee. That would just look crazy. All right, so we got that one, and as we did with the feet, we will make this the guide. Go ahead and we'll glue it. Hot glue in the cavity there. There you go. All right, so the next one, that bend in the elbow, let's cut it down to about there, and we'll test it. Yep, still too long. Another great way to test it at this point is just to keep them both straight. And then when you put it on, you really want, not necessarily the tops, I mean, yes, they should match, but also like the wrists should match. So we need to take this and make it a little bit shorter. Let's see how that looks. Still too long, can you tell? Just a wee bit too long. I am a perfectionist. This is why it takes me so long to make dolls. I am working on streamlining things, but it's a challenge for me. All right, that's about right. You can see the wrist bones, those little bumps on the wrists are lined up. All right, so let us put glue in that one. Now, some people, I'm going to tell you this right now, some people, and sometimes even myself, prefer not to attach the arms until later on. The process of dressing is almost done because of the danger of breaking the fingers. And that is a danger. You know, it's really, they're very fragile because they're porcelain. And even clay would be really fragile, they could break. So some people wait until the dress is like 3/4 of the way done, and then they put on the arms. You also have to wrap this part. This is what we're going to do next, is we're going to wrap these parts to fill them out and give her more of a body. I don't do too much wrapping on this because we don't want her to have big bulky arms, and in miniature the general rule is less is more. So because we're putting clothing on a body that doesn't have any give to it and it's hard, you want to make the limbs a little teeny smidgen smaller than what they would be if she just had like a bare arm. And that way it fits under the outfit. It takes into account the thickness of the fabric that you're using, the bulkiness of any seams that you're using to sew on sleeves, and these little tiny minute things make a huge difference in how real the doll looks. So next up we will be wrapping the limbs, and I'll show you how that is done. Okay, so now that we have the body assembled, the arms and the feet are glued on, I move the arms up and out of the way because we are going to start with the bottom half, wrapping the limbs. So the kind of things that you need for wrapping the limbs are cotton string or yarn. I got a big what is it, skein or skein of it, skein. Then tacky glue or PVA glue. Different scissors, tweezers. I use that to kind of hold on to the string as I'm wrapping it around. Also cotton gauze for wrapping the body and padding it out. So 100% cotton gauze. In the past I've used things like, I think I mentioned medical wrap that sticks to itself. You know, it was great. It helped form the little things, but I wasn't quite sure how long that would last. It would stick, and if it would bleed through. Someone else suggested that to me. It might not be as archival, but this 100% cotton gauze or any sort of absorbent cotton thing kind of is actually going to be really great in making the doll last a long time. So I also, as you can see, I buy it in a larger kind of width, and then I cut strips. And the strips I cut are about this wide. So if that helps you out. So first we're going to start with, I'm going to put that over here. Let me put my glasses on. We're going to start with wrapping the limbs, the bottom limbs, in the yarn. So take our little body, spread that right there because we're kind of going to give her hips. Put one of the legs up. We're going to work on this leg. Turn it over. Get enough yarn to work with. We're going to do one layer of this yarn. And this is just to really stabilize the limb and to bulk it out a little bit. But the main bulking and shape forming will be done with the cotton gauze later. All right, so you start with running a line of glue all the way up to her waist. Now sometimes I'll just put a dot of glue right here and then take the end of the yarn and just let it dry there because it'll hold on to it better. But for demonstration purposes, I am going to start wrapping it now, and we're going to wrap one layer from the bottom to the top. Okay, so we've wrapped it from the bottom to the top. We're going to cut off a little end right here. Put a dab of glue where we're going to secure it. Take that end with your tweezers or your fingers, whatever you feel comfortable with. I like tweezers, they're kind of like my third hand. There we go. And just kind of smooth it down and then allow that to dry. And we're going to do the same exact thing to the other leg. This one we're going to put up and out of the way, and this one down. And we are going to do the same thing. Okay, now that we have wrapped each of the legs in the cotton thread or yarn, not thread, string or yarn, we're ready to start padding her legs and bottom half. As you can tell, they're kind of one's a little thinner than the other, a little more thin than this one. But that's okay because we're just going to be using the cotton gauze to bulk it out and shape it. So this is what you do. You take a strip of the gauze that you've already cut, we're going to put glue all along the length. Leave a little bit of dry parts at either end so you can handle it with your hands. It's a very sticky, messy business, but you know, most of the doll making process is. All right, so let's start by leaving it end dry and start about here. Just, it doesn't even have to be straight, doesn't have to be wavy. I kind of do wavy just to kind of cover a lot of area of it. It's basically just to make sure that it sticks onto the doll, because later, if you're not going to make your doll posable, I'll show you what I do. I then take fabric stiffener and I spread it, or even like watered down glue, spread it all over the body, and it stiffens up the body. It's not posable after that, but that's what I like in my dolls. And yeah, and really sticks at that point. All right, so Again, put one of the legs up. We're going to work on this one. Start on the back. All right, maybe you can put glue all the way down. There we go. Okay, it's just use like your tweezers to pick it up. All right, now it's going to get everywhere, so be prepared. Kind of lift up your doll a bit. It's going to be messy. After you're done with this, just wash your hands. Have I mentioned baby wipes? Those are so great to have in the studio. You can wipe your hands with them and get all the glue off. Easy peasy. All right. Without making too much of a mess, we're going to wrap it. Kind of like we did this string. Ooh, see, I'm getting it everywhere. Just kind of winding its way up. Covering the edges of the previous round. Pull it a little tight. It's a little taut. And we just go all the way up. As you can see, it's more thick down here. So we're not going to need a whole lot more down there, but we are going to need more gauze up by her thighs and her hip. Remember, it's not going to be looked at. No one's going to be looking underneath, but as far as the shape, you kind of want that under there. This would be, like I said, an 18th century doll. So I'll be putting a dress on it that looks like it has panniers underneath it. Panniers are the bumps on either side of the hip. So I will actually take this and build it out farther to get it up to that thickness and bump, instead of actually doing panniers underneath, which is a lot of work. It's beautiful, but no one's ever going to see it. All right, so those are her thighs. I'm going to kind of stay in that area. I'm not going to do any more from here down. I'm going to do a little bit more up here. So this one, I'm taking my time to show you how to do it. The next one, I'll do a little sped up video. Watch out for the glue all over the place. See, where are my baby wipes? Ooh, ooh, ooh. There we go. Baby wipes for the win. You can even wipe off your scissors, your mini irons, your irons with it. That helps. All right, and again, we're not probably going to use this whole bit. Put the wavy line of glue. Ooh, so messy. You should see me when I'm wigging. Oh my goodness. There is hair fiber everywhere. It's like pulling it out of my teeth the other day. I'm like, what? How did it get in my mouth? All right, all the way. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but there we go. All the way to the end. Well, I left a little dry part at the end. Kind of. All right. So now, like I said, we're building out the hips. So can I just mention, anatomically, is that the word? Her butt will go to about here. So after we wrap this one, we'll then put the legs together and we'll make her butt. So we're just working on her thighs right now. There we go. So sometimes I'll wrap over and over in the same area to build up the thickness. So you can see, I kind of want it to blend a little, but we're gonna go back. Well, let's go a little bit that way, kind of fill in that, if you could see that sort of gap. And we'll go back up her leg. We don't want her to be too hippie, but you know, hey, us ladies got some curves. At least I do anyway. All right, so you can see how that kind of is. I built it up a lot in here. The back end, oh boy, I'm getting glue everywhere. You can even wipe off the doll or the porcelain with the baby wipe. Boy, that stuff is like a miracle. I know babies think that too. All right. There we go. I'm going to put this down and you can see in comparison what that cotton gauze did. All right. Isn't that awesome? Builds it up. All right, I'm going to go and do the other side and speed it up for you and wipe down my board. Ugh. Okay, now you've pretty much wrapped all the legs. We're going to add a little butt, a little bum, maybe a teeny bump right here for a belly, but you know, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to be like skin tight clothing. We just want to make sure that when she stands, her feet match up. I mean, if you want to pose her now, like, oh, hey, let's put one foot out. That actually comes later when we add a stiffener all the way around it. But to make the butt, ha, I'm so funny. Take a wider piece of cotton gauze and cut it. Maybe, it really depends. You just kind of have to eyeball it. About that much. I might cut some of it down. I'm going to roll it in on itself. I don't want her butt to go... Is it okay to say butt on a video? Am I going to get in trouble for that? Okay. Don't want it to go much, deeper from her waist to the bottom of it. So that's why I'm rolling it at like this width. And that's, as you can tell, that's going to be enough. We don't really need a lot. If she's got a bustle... If you're doing like a Victorian doll who's got a bustle, you can really exaggerate this because you're not going to be making a real bustle underneath. But if you exaggerate this part of it, boy, you can get the bustle shape easily. What I do is I also take glue to sort of secure that end. There we go. It's a little too wide. See? So I'm going to cut it down a wee bit. We're going to place it about there, so I'm going to cut about there when it's on her. Okie dokie. Then we're going to put glue on the underside to secure it. There we be. And then we're going to take another strip about that width, that strip width, and wrap it around. I get fuzz everywhere. All right, wrap it around, and we're going to kind of, just, this is what we're going to do. We're going to cover it up, but we still need to put glue on the strip. So get ready for messy fingers again, and I'll show you how I wrap that. so we wrapped her bum, and as you can tell, her waist, you know, was so tiny that I had to sort of tuck this in. And at the very end, I made it really nice and tight. See how I made it nice and tight on each side of her waist, and then I secured it down. This part, we can take a little bit of glue, kind of add it in there in the middle of that little dart or tuck or whatever, and just place it down. And there you have it. Okay, well, she has an ample bum, but you know, nothing wrong with that. There we go. She's going to be underneath. If you really want to shape it more, I have a friend who does this. She uses a little bit different cotton gauze, but she takes, I think it's just glue, or maybe she waters down the glue, and I've done this too, and a paintbrush. Like here's one of my paintbrushes with the glue, and then brushes it along, and then takes whatever, like the tweezers or the handle, and kind of forms, you know, the shapes and bumps or whatnot that she wants on the doll. And I do that too. She taught me how to do that. It's a really, really great way to, you know, really form the shape underneath. It also is the same as I was talking about earlier. It's hardening, making this like a shell, basically, and making it hard and unbendable so that when the doll is on its stand, it doesn't bend and it holds its position really, really well. So, all right, we did the lower body. Let's do the arms, and I'll show you how I do that next. Now for the arms, I just use the cotton gauze. I don't use the cotton yarn or string because I want to avoid excess bulk. I have a little glue on there already. Excess bulk on the arms because I anticipate this will be an 18th century gown, and they have tight sleeves. Even if they're not tight sleeves, this rule of keeping it a little bit smaller than it would be in life size it'll translate very well once the clothing is on the doll, and it'll look a lot better than big puffy arms. And that's all part of making it look as real as possible. So I cut 2 thin pieces of the cotton gauze. I added glue to this one. And we're going to start from the bottom. I think I might do 2 layers. I'm not sure. We'll see how it looks. And I kind of make it a little tight. There's my tweezers. They're so handy. I like the straight tweezers. They're just very easy for me to use. Okay, not very tight, but pretty tight. And overlapping the previous one. This might be it. I don't think I will actually do another layer because, as you can tell, it's almost to the thickness of a real arm. So cut it about where you think it will be. See, we didn't even use the whole piece of gauze. Put a little bit of glue right where you're probably going to secure it. All right, looks like I put it a little farther away. We'll just tighten it. All right, there we go. I don't put the stiffener on the arms because I kind of don't know how I'm going to pose the arms until the costume is completely done. So when I do the stiffener, it's just from here, and I'll show you that. All right, so we've got an arm, a little bulky there. You can take the watered down glue. Nope, don't do that, never mind. That'll just make it stiff. You don't want them stiff. That's pretty good. I probably could have gone a little tighter. I'll show you on this one. I'll go a little tighter on this one. It's not bad though. So keep it tight, 1 layer. That's all you're going to need. Okay. Okay, so there you go. We've got the arms wrapped. This one I wrapped a little tighter. I started from this side and went down. I mean, it really doesn't matter. You might find it easier to start up here and tighten and tighten and tighten as you go, because this is where the elbow would be, and you really want that smaller than this part. So there you go on that. I might rewrap that one later. It's a little too bulky, but this one's about right. So that's what it looks like before you put any stiffener on it. If you want to keep your doll posable, don't put any stiffener on it, because it is still posable at this point. So I'm not going to actually do it for you on camera, but I'm going to show you what I use. It is Aleene's fabric stiffener and draping liquid. There's another brand called Stiffy. You can also take glue, just the PVA glue, and water it down a bit. Then you take your brush, you know, you would put it in like a little disposable cup, either this or the water and the glue. Dull it out, and you would just brush it on. And if you need to reshape, you know, you can reshape with the end of the brush or whatever tool. You can use a toothpick too. And a lot of times, if I'm going to have a doll standing, if I'm going to have a doll actually seated as well, before I even put this stuff on, I will pose her in a seated position with the bent legs. You know, I might even have to add a little more cotton gauze to hold the legs in a certain position, and then I will cover the whole thing with the stiffener or the water down glue. But say she's going to be standing, so just kind of hold her like this and brush that glue or stiffener all over her body, and then let her be. If you want her legs to stay like this, you might want to take a little bit of extra gauze with glue on it. Like say you want her to be like this, right? With her legs really close together, but maybe a foot turned. You also want to make sure she's standing. I don't know if you guys can see that on camera, but that this and this is even. So take a piece of gauze and just secure her legs together. And that way she is going to be in that position. And then you can, I mean, you can't see it. If you want to make it kind of pretty, you can add a little more, but you just don't want to add too much more bulk. And then you add the stiffener. And there you have it. You have your doll. You let it dry. And then you start dressing your doll. If you put stiffener or glue over the top of this, and you costume your doll, and if you drape, like wet drape your doll, be cautious of that, because this stuff that you put on to stiffen it all, and even the glue, could leach out into the fabric that you just wet down to drape. So what I do is I will put a little plastic wrap around this whole area, and then I will put the skirt part or whatever, and then I will wet it down at that point and let it dry, and then I pull out the plastic so nothing seeps through to that pretty fancy silk that you used on your doll. And there you have it. That is how you assemble a miniature porcelain doll. Thanks so much for watching.